We live in a world that keeps whispering the same message. Love yourself. Protect your peace. Put yourself first. It sounds beautiful, almost sacred, a quiet anthem of survival. But somewhere between self-care routines and motivational quotes, something began to shift. I remember watching a friend say, "I'm just setting boundaries," right after cutting someone off, mid-conversation, not to protect herself, but to punish them. And I wondered, when did self-love start to look so cold? When did it stop feeling like compassion and start feeling like distance? Everywhere you look, people are preaching healing. Yet, behind the calm voices and curated smiles, there's a quiet loneliness, a generation of people who are untouchable, not because they're strong, but because they're scared. We build walls and call them boundaries. We disconnect and call it self-respect. We hide our fear behind affirmations that sound confident but feel hollow. Maybe this isn't love at all. Maybe it's just another mask, softer, prettier, but still a mask. Tonight, we'll walk together along that hidden cliff, the one where healthy self-respect turns into quiet arrogance, and where loving yourself slowly becomes the art of loving no one else. And the question I want you to hold as we begin is simple. Are you truly healing or just hiding? Real self-love isn't loud. It doesn't post daily affirmations or demand to be seen. It doesn't need to shout, "I'm enough." It simply knows. True self-love feels like exhaling after years of holding your breath. It's soft, steady, patient. It lets you make mistakes and still look in the mirror with kindness. It's forgiving the younger version of you who tried so hard to be loved and finally saying, "You did your best." It's not about building walls or walking away first so you don't get hurt. It's about standing still, open, honest, vulnerable, and knowing that even if love leaves, you will stay. Because you belong to yourself now. When you love yourself this way, you don't need to prove anything. You stop performing. You stop chasing. You start listening to your body, to your boundaries, to your heart. True self-love doesn't isolate you from others. It connects you deeper. It teaches you that peace isn't found in being admired, but in being authentic. And maybe in the quietest moments, when no one's watching, you'll feel it, that calm certainty that you are enough. Not because you've achieved or impressed, but simply because you are. If this spoke to you, if you've ever walked that thin line between loving yourself and losing yourself, I'd love to hear your story. Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. And if you want to keep exploring these quiet corners of the human heart together, take a second to subscribe. Because here, we don't chase perfection, we learn how to be real. Every story of a narcissist begins long before the mirror. It starts in a small room, somewhere in childhood, where love was either too cold or too consuming. Some children grow up unseen. They learn early that their feelings are too much, their needs are inconvenient. So, they build armor out of perfection. They smile when they want to cry, achieve when they want to rest, please when they want to scream. They become whoever the world needs them to be, just to stay safe. That armor becomes their identity. Others grow up worshipped. Every drawing they made was a masterpiece. Every mistake was someone else's fault. They were told they were special, not loved for who they are, but for how they shine. And so, they learn to live off praise the way others live off oxygen. two different childhoods, two opposite roads, but both end in the same quiet emptiness, a heart that never learned how to feel enough without being someone. And as adults, they keep chasing that missing piece through attention, control, admiration. It's not evil, it's fear. The fear of being ordinary, the fear of disappearing if no one is watching. Maybe that's the cruelest truth about narcissism. It isn't born from too much love for the self. It's born from not knowing how to love at all. So, before we judge the mask, maybe we need to ask what made it necessary in the first place. Confidence, when it's real, feels calm. It doesn't rush to be seen. It doesn't need to win every room. It's that quiet knowing, I'm enough, even when I fail. But when the wound runs deep, confidence starts to twist. It turns into a show. You've met that person, the one who speaks louder, stands taller, and tells every story a little bigger than it really was. They don't mean to lie, they just can't stop reaching for that high that comes from being admired. It's not pride, it's survival. Because without applause, they start to disappear inside themselves. Then there's self-care, something meant to restore, to refill your soul. A walk alone, a deep breath, saying no when you've reached your limit. But for some, self-care becomes a weapon. They use it to justify taking more than they give. I need this, they say, while draining the people who love them most. They call it rest, but it's control. They call it boundaries, but it's a wall. True confidence doesn't feed on others. It simply stands, steady and kind. True self-care doesn't steal space. It creates room for everyone to breathe. So, pause for a moment and ask yourself, when you say, I deserve this, is it coming from peace or from fear of not being enough without it? Healthy boundaries are acts of love for yourself and for others. They sound like, I need some space to breathe, or I can't take this on right now, but I still care. They protect connection. They don't destroy it. But somewhere along the way, boundaries can harden. They stop being soft lines and start becoming walls. You've seen it, someone says, don't cross my boundaries, when what they really mean is do as I say. Control hides under the language of self-protection. It's no longer about mutual respect, it's about power. And anyone who tries to reach through that wall is made to feel guilty just for caring. Then comes the shift from reflection to blame. Healthy people pause when something goes wrong. They ask, what's my part in this? They look inward, even when it hurts. But the wounded self can't bear that mirror. To look inside feels too dangerous. It might reveal the cracks they've tried so hard to hide. So they point outward instead. Suddenly, every argument becomes your fault. Every discomfort is someone else's doing. And no matter how gently you try to speak, you end up being the problem they need to escape from. Blame becomes their armor, because if they're never wrong, they never have to feel small. But the truth is, owning our mistakes doesn't make us smaller. It makes us human. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can say isn't, you hurt me, but maybe I hurt you too. Empathy is what makes us human. It's the quiet moment when you stop thinking about what to say next and just listen. It's when someone's pain moves through you and you don't try to fix it, you simply stay. But for the self-absorbed heart, empathy slowly fades. They can understand emotions, they can even describe them perfectly, but they don't feel them. It's like standing in the rain and never getting wet. They'll say the right words, offer the right tone, but there's no warmth underneath. Because to feel too deeply might expose the wound they've worked so hard to cover. And so, they live in a world of mirrors. Every smile, every compliment, every like becomes oxygen. The outside world tells them who they are for a few hours, for a few clicks, until the silence returns. Then the emptiness creeps back in, and they need another hit of validation to feel alive again. It's exhausting, always performing, always proving. And the tragedy is, the more they chase approval, the less real they become. True worth doesn't come from applause. It comes from quiet moments when you can sit alone, look at your reflection, and still feel whole. So maybe ask yourself this: when you post that photo, when you reach for that compliment, when you need someone to tell you you're enough, what are you really trying to hear? Because maybe deep down, you already know. Anger, when it's healthy, protects us. It's the voice that says, "This isn't okay," when someone crosses a line. It sets a boundary, not a fire. It's meant to defend, not destroy. But when the ego is fragile, anger becomes something else. It becomes rage. You can see it in their eyes. The moment they feel questioned, the moment their image cracks, something erupts. It's not about the argument. It's not about right or wrong. It's about survival, the desperate need to protect the version of themselves they've built so carefully. This rage can feel volcanic, sudden, consuming, unpredictable. A small comment becomes an insult. A gentle correction feels like humiliation. And instead of hearing, "I made a mistake," they hear, "I'm unworthy." So they lash out. They raise their voice, slam a door, walk away. Not because they hate you, but because, in that moment, they hate the feeling of being exposed. And after the fire fades, there's always silence, heavy, cold, and full of shame they'll never admit. Healthy anger says, "Something hurt me." Narcissistic rage says, "You made me feel small, and I'll never let you do it again." The irony is, what they destroy in those moments isn't you. It's trust. It's safety. It's the one thing real love can't survive without. And when the dust settles, all that's left is the echo of a person still trying to prove they're unbreakable even as they break inside. It always begins beautifully. They see you, really see you, in a way no one else ever has. They remember the smallest details, finish your sentences, tell you that you're different, special, meant for them. You start to believe it. You start to believe they believe it too. That's the trap of the first act, the love bombing. It feels like warmth, but it's fire. You don't notice when it starts burning. Then, one day, something changes. Their eyes turn distant, the compliments fade. The warmth you once felt now feels conditional, earned, not given. You start to ask yourself, what did I do wrong? You apologize more, you work harder, you shrink a little, hoping they'll love you the way they used to. This is the devaluation. They don't yell, they just withdraw, correct you, compare you. They twist your words, make you doubt your own memory. And slowly, you start to disappear piece by piece until you can't recognize the person in the mirror anymore. And when there's nothing left to take, they leave. No warning, no closure, just silence. And you're left replaying every moment, trying to find the version of yourself that existed before them. But here's the hardest truth. They never loved you for who you were. They loved the reflection of themselves they saw in your eyes. So if you've ever been discarded, confused, or broken by someone who once swore you were their everything, please know it wasn't because you weren't enough. It's because you saw them too clearly, and that's something they could never bear. Healing doesn't begin with revenge. It begins with honesty, the quiet kind that whispers, "Something in me needs to change too." Because escaping a narcissist isn't just about leaving a person. It's about walking away from the version of yourself that kept hoping they'd become who you imagined. It's about reclaiming your reflection piece by piece until it feels like yours again. The first step is awareness. You start to notice the patterns, the apologies that never came, the love that always had conditions, the silence that hurt more than words. And slowly, you stop trying to fix them and begin tending to yourself. Then comes accountability. Not for what they did, but for what you ignored. For the times you stayed when your body screamed to run. For the moments you mistook chaos for passion and pain for depth. That's not weakness, it's human. And finally, empathy. The kind that doesn't excuse their behavior, but helps you understand your own. You start to feel compassion not for their mask, but for the scared child behind yours. Healing isn't loud. It's the morning you wake up and realize you haven't checked their profile in weeks. It's the day you speak your truth without trembling. It's the moment you look in the mirror and see not a survivor, but someone free. Because real healing isn't about proving they lost you. It's about remembering you never lost yourself. Real self-love is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself or prove anything. It's the kind of strength that comes from knowing who you are, even when no one's watching. True self-love feels like coming home after a long day, not perfect, not proud, just safe. It's the way you forgive yourself for the mistakes you made when you didn't know better. It's the voice that says, "I can do better," not because you're broken, but because you care. But somewhere along the way, love for the self became a performance. The mirror turned into a stage. We started calling attention, confidence, and validation healing. People say, "I don't need anyone," but you can hear the tremor in their voice, the loneliness hiding behind the words. That isn't strength. It's fear wearing perfume. It's the illusion of love built on comparison, applause, and likes. You see, self-love roots you deeper. It connects you to life. Narcissism floats above it, all shiny but empty, like a balloon that can only stay up if someone keeps blowing air into it. When you truly love yourself, you don't need to be better than anyone else. You just need to be real, humble enough to learn, soft enough to feel, and brave enough to care. So, as we move forward, ask yourself, do you love who you are quietly, or do you love the version that others applaud? Because one will set you free, and the other will keep you performing forever. If any of this feels familiar, if you've ever wondered whether your self-love is healing you or hiding something deeper, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what does real self-love mean to you? Is it peace? Is it honesty? Or maybe, like many of us, it's something you're still learning to find. Your story, your reflection, might be exactly what someone else out there needs to hear tonight.